Welcome to the Kingdom Warrior Way podcast. I'm your host, Chris Berg. And this is our first ever Kingdom Warrior Way podcast. So we just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, for joining us here today. The purpose of this podcast is really to inspire and empower men to step into their God-given purpose. Like really just answer the question, why are you here? And then to go out and help mold your character into the character of Christ. Like go out and lead like Jesus and be a true servant leader. And the reason we wanted to bring this into a podcast is about five and a half months ago, there were several of us, we got together, we started a group at our church called the Kingdom Warrior Way. We utilized a book called Lead Like Jesus. And the inspiration for the podcast is we were just seeing such incredible transformation in the character of the men in the group. A couple examples. One is we had a young man. We were recently up at Big Bear at a men's conference. He stood up and talked about how he was addicted to porn, addicted to weed, which we know is a prevalent problem for a lot of young men out there today. We ended up praying for him, going into spiritual warfare for him. And according to him, he hasn't touched the stuff since that weekend. So very, very powerful to watch the transformation of this young man that literally came into our group, dare I say, as meek as a mouse, right? And I've told him that, like, it's incredible to see what's happened there. There's been several other men that have came in fairly meek, not really sure about themselves. You're going to meet some of those guys here today, but now really stepping into who they are as men. And we're like, hey, we're making the transformation here. How do we start to put this on the podcast? And our hope is that being a part of this conversation, you're going to learn more about what it looks like to be a kingdom warrior and ideally help you step into what it looks like for you to be a man. Because as we're having these conversations, a lot of us kind of going, we don't really know what it looks like to be a man. There's been such poor, I think, father figures and or leadership from a lot of men within our society that we're trying to sort of figure that out and help others do the same. Some of you might be saying, hey, what is a kingdom warrior? We're going to talk about that as well today. I think the simple summation for me is a man that steps up and gives God his first and gives God his best. And as we sort of build out this podcast ideas, we're talking about a kingdom warrior. We're going to look at sort of the 7, what I call pillars of a man's life. So we're going to explore how do you maximize, your faith, your family, your friends, your fitness. You think about Romans 12:1 says, hey, my body should be a living sacrifice for the Lord. Of course, your finances. You got to have some fun in life. So we're going to talk about having some fun, and also philanthropy, which I know it doesn't start with an F, but the phonetics work. So we're going to roll with those 7 areas as becoming an outstanding kingdom warrior. And I guess the reason why is we feel like, hey, if you can maximize those 7 areas of your life, you're going to lead a much more fulfilling life. And that's really the objective of what this podcast is ideally going to be about. Quickly, before I introduce a couple of guests, just one piece of the inspiration behind this group, behind this podcast, what the Lord's really put on my heart is there's many, but one more recent is there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that just talked about how lost young men are today. Like no purpose, going back to live in with mom and dad. The reality is, as men, we're getting our butts kicked by women when it comes to education and finances. So I saw the article. I was like, hey, this is a problem. We got to figure out how to get young men reassociated, realigned with their God-given purpose. And then to add some more fuel to the fire, a few weeks later, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal again. This time they went out and talked to young women. And the reality is the young women are sort of like, yeah, I'm not so sure I need a man. Like, I don't know about this marriage thing. And the reason why is they're like, why? I'm kicking their tails when it comes to education. I'm doing it financially. My belief is that the foundation of a nation is family. And so when you see this chasm between men and women, you're like, okay, there's a problem. We need to at least have a conversation and hopefully come up with some solutions to bring the family unit back together and continue to build a really powerful foundation for this nation. So let's jump into the conversation. A couple of gentlemen that have been part of the Kingdom Warrior Way group, and we're going to share the impact the group's had on their lives. Good friend of mine, Jeff and Eric. So gentlemen, first ever time we're trying this out. We'll see how it goes. We just want to say thank you for being a part of it.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with you, Jeff. Just give us a chance to introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Eric and talk about the group.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I know you guys through Atmosphere Church, through these groups that you mentioned. I started going to Atmosphere about a year and a half ago now. I was kind of in and out of faith through my life, and mostly out before meeting my wife. And she's kind of the person who kind of started bringing me, saying, hey, we should start going to church, especially as we, had our first our first son, and hey, we gotta start going to church. And so slowly but surely, kind of church became more of a part of my life, and just really found a great church family in Atmosphere. And I felt like at Atmosphere, it was like every time, God would put something in front of me, say yes, just do it. Even if you don't know what's on the other side of it, just do it. Lean in, go move chairs at the church. Okay. Just do it. That led to the next thing. That led to the, to being in groups like, Kingdom Warriors. So yeah, just saying yes to God, and yeah, man, I'm stoked to be here.
I'm excited to get your story because I think I've said this to you. When you first showed up at one of our groups, you were pretty meek and like, okay, what am I doing
I wasn't
here?
that
And
meek. I wasn't that meek.
not that as some that we'll talk about, but would you admit, hey, you've had a tremendous amount of growth through this?
I feel like I've been growing nonstop. Absolutely.
Okay, good. We'll share more of that in a moment. And I didn't know the part about your wife taking you to church, so I may, get into that a little bit as well. But Eric, great to have you, man. Share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Eric, 46, long walks on the beach. No, I love being a part of the Kingdom Warriors. The truth is, I feel like a kingdom jester most of the time. Still working it out. Definitely a baby Christian. Still trying to find my walk and what that really looks like to me. But the one thing I do know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that God is calling, and that Jesus is the rudder that I've been seeking my entire life. I still don't know what that really looks like, if I'm being totally honest. I think I've got a good idea. I think I'm on the right track. I think I'm on the path, but I think it's really important for men to iron sharpens iron, right? And as wonderful and beautiful as women are, we understand each other and can communicate in a way that it just makes it's more congruent with like what's inside of us inherently as men. So yeah, when I heard about the Kingdom Warriors, I was really drawn to it for that reason.
Quick anecdote that I want to share as well. Like, you can't make this stuff up, right? Like, the three of us come up the elevator. He and I are helping this woman take some stuff up to her office. And I don't even know why she asked me. She's like, hey, what are y'all doing here? Like, oh, we're going to do a podcast. And she's like, oh, about what? So we lay it out like, oh, we're going to talk about men becoming men again. She's like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Because literally, and you guys can vouch, like, she's like, literally this morning on the news, I saw this piece about where, hey, guys are lost, women are mad because guys are like, there's this, we all can sort of see it and feel it, but I don't hear a lot of solutions being talked about. And that's obviously, but I just thought it was amazing to have that anecdote happen to us right before we, record this thing. What I want to get into today is, because again, as I mentioned at the top, I don't know if there's been great models. Like, what is it to be a man? Right? Like, we've all been socialized that, hey, athletic prowess makes you a man. Fell for that one. Sexual prowess makes you a man. Economic prowess makes you a man. But I don't know if those things really hold up, but that's how we've all been socialized since we were little. So I do want to get into that, but also just the impact the groups had on you personally. And then we'll get into this idea of a Kingdom Warrior. And let's just start with a group, kind of a testimonial perspective. Like, one of the things that's fascinating to me right now is, as I'm sure you're getting more into your faith, hey, the man should sort of be leading that part of the household, right? And yet you said, hey, it was my wife that was like, oh, probably should go into church. So how is that flipped? And do you find yourself now leading the faith in your family much more and much more strongly?
Well, definitely leading much more strongly in that, like, before I wasn't even really wanting to go to church, and so now my wife and I, we can like pray together. We can talk about God together. We can talk about, yeah, I mean, it kind of changes everything, but it does change the dynamic totally. Right. Like, I mean, because I think you can lead in your house, but not be a spiritual leader in your house, and that's almost tougher. You know what I mean? Cause like you're taking on that mantle of leadership without God, right? And like, and so you're not equipped, you know. So that, I think that's where I was before. I was trying to lead, but when you don't have somebody walking alongside you, like God, Jesus, who's kind of like your wingman, right? You're doing it alone, and it's more stressful. It's lonelier. So yeah, I think I can say that I've had a beautiful relationship with my wife ever since I met her. Before we were married, but now that we are like going to church and doing the thing, and and kind of growing this new way, like just practically we're happier. It's a better.
Happier how?
I think for me, like I hold things a little lighter, right? Like one of the things that's kind of come clear to me now, like in my faith, is that, when you're walking with God, you're kind of playing with house money, like I don't worry about a lot of the things that I used to worry about. It's not to say that I don't worry. I still have plenty of things that I do worry about, you know what I mean? But, it's just, I think I'm lighter with her. I'm lighter with the kids. Not perfect by any means. Still had my moments, had one yesterday, but, yeah, I carry myself with her. I'm having more fun. I'm lighter.
And I know you got good instincts, man. So if you got a question anytime, pop in. That's vice versa for both of us. We're doing this conversation. I guess what's fascinating to me is I'm assuming that you're in a repentant, like, heart stature a lot faster now than you were. And what's also interesting is that, we're studying 1 Peter 3:7 this week for the Kingdom Warrior Group, right? Which is about honoring your wife. But the first part of that, if you can read 1 Peter, is about, hey, wives, submit to your husbands. And that's all that most men read. And I love the fact that, if you think about it, like, okay, it feels like, yeah, the wife should submit to the husband. But the question that always is missing for me is, who's the husband submitting to?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's why you see a lot of wives not trusting their husband, because they know their husband's not completely submitted to God.
Yep.
So I want you to walk through the dynamics, because, again, not that you've done it perfectly, but I feel like you've definitely submitted much more to God. Have you found, since you've done that, your wife's had a lot more trust for you? There's a lot more closeness, intimacy, or no?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it is kind of like getting that order right. Like, submitting to God first, like, so that you can lead with confidence and kind of being, and I think there was one other thing. Oh yeah, just kind of leading with the heart of service. That was something that I think was really emphasized in that Lead Like Jesus book, right? Was lead with the heart of service. And so showing up every day with, like, how can I serve my family today, right? How can I serve my wife? And not how can I,
How can my wife submit to me?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's like, it's exactly. It's not like, oh yeah, it says in the Bible, honey, that you gotta submit to me. It's like, look at Jesus. He was the ultimate servant leader, right? Like, he, as he was going to his death, he was like, you want to be the greatest in my kingdom, right? Like, serve, right? Like, humble yourself. And so I think the practical change that has been for me in my marriage is, like, if I am thinking about that every morning, right? Like, and kind of going, like, okay, like, how can I serve my family today? It also comes back around, right? If you're leading with the heart of service, everybody kind of picks up on that, kids included.
I think people can sense your heart stature, right? Like, if it's truly from, like, again, you're not gonna be perfect, but if the heart stature is there where you want to serve, I think your wife's going to give you a lot more grace. There's going to be opportunities like, my bad. It's just, it becomes, like you and I've talked about, almost like this jet stream, or this, I don't know how to put it into word. This must be just the Holy Spirit. Like, you can sense that within the relationship, and the dynamics change. So I want to come back to you, but let's share with you, like, you're in a different place. You're in a place I was probably a few years ago, going through this divorce. It's tough. There's some very, like I've shared with you, I remember there was days, man, where I would get home and I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. Like, I don't remember my day. I don't remember how I got home. Like, it was just dark.
Yeah.
So if you want to share a little bit about that, but also I think just what it's been like for you being a part of this group and getting into the word and having, good men around you.
Yeah. Well, what really kind of came to mind when you were talking, Jeff, actually is, I kind of wish that I don't kind of anything. I wish that I would have found it sooner, because who knows, things could have worked out differently. I certainly didn't lead from a place of service, in my marriage. I have to own that. Um, but I have a son, and hopefully I can learn, I guess better late than never. So yeah, and yeah, you're right. There have been plenty of days in the last, year plus, where I just, the the death of the dream, is it's a tough one to swallow, for sure. It's painful. It's painful with walking through that with two children as well. But again, I think that it's still important to have this conversation. It's still important to keep learning and growing, and I can't think of any better way to do that than with other men that are trying to get after the same thing. And not only that, statistically speaking, I mean, I think you touched on it, is the 15 to 25-year-old male in this country is, I mean, it's the highest rate of suicide. They're hurting. And, again, if I can use my testimony and my own pain and my own struggle, to kind of reach my hand out and try to help, those guys coming up, then at least it will be purposeful to some degree or another.
Talk about the impact the group is having on your character as a man. And I say that because, there's been some nights, man, you haven't wanted to show up, and you do. And I commend you for that, because when I was going through my divorce and when my marriage was really bad, it was like, I should have been reaching out to my boys and having coffee or getting in groups. And instead, there's so much shame around it. Like, I just hid in my basement.
Yeah.
Right. So I commend you for having the courage. It's just like, look, I really don't want to be here right now, but I'm going to show up anyways.
Yeah.
So if you maybe want to speak to that, but just more importantly, how you're starting to see your character change as you're looking, I'm assuming, to aspire to be more of a kingdom warrior.
100%. And I think it all starts with accountability. And unfortunately, I think that that's one of the pieces that, has done a disservice to young men for quite some time. I guess what I'm trying to say is, God bless him. I love my dad, but he didn't hold me to account. I didn't know what it meant to be accountable to, another man, one that had my best interest at heart, and one that, could have taught me a thing or two had I have shown up to and open my ears to listen to what it is that he had to say. He did the best he could, with what he was given, but I don't think he was held to account. So how can you give what you didn't get? And again, I'll just bring it back to, really a lot of the nights where you're right, I don't feel like showing up because there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame in my, being in a church setting, having a divorce under my belt. It's a thing. But if I can't do it for me, I can certainly do it for my son.
When you say do it, do what?
Show up.
Mm.
And do the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the work, because it's not going to happen via osmosis. It's not, it's discipline and practice and accountability. And so I think that is where this Kingdom Warriors group is showing up the strongest for me,
I want to back up to something else you mentioned, because we're actually going through it this week, and I alluded to this earlier, but is the word honor. Like probably for the last 6 months for sure, maybe 9, like God's really been pressing on me about what does it look like to honor God?
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like to honor myself? We just mentioned Romans 12:1, like, my vessel. But then as it first says in 1 Peter 3:7, like honor your wife. And the piece that I never hear anybody really talk about in that scripture is, says, hey, honor your wife. And the very final like line in that scripture is, if you honor your wife, essentially, then all your prayers will be answered. They won't be hindered, is what it says, right? But what's been fascinating, and this is where I want to go with you guys, I would say I've probably asked, I don't know, we'll say 80 to 95, maybe 100 women, right? All different ages. Hey, let me ask you a question. Like, what does it look like, or what does it feel like? What does it sound like for your spouse or your significant other to really honor you? Bro, 98% of them look at me like, bro, that's a great question. Like, I've never even thought of it, right? Which I'm like, wait, you've never thought about how a man can honor you, number one. But then secondly, I had one woman like thought about it for a moment, and she looked and she goes, let's see, for me to be honored, I would need to know that my spouse puts the salvation of my soul first.
It's a strong answer.
Mic drop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But 99 or 98% of women, like they have no idea. And so I guess my question is, I think it's gonna be different for every woman. And just to put the question out there, because I think it's such an important thing to explore as men, is if you were to honor your wife, since you're married, he and I aren't, but hopefully we will be at some point again. If you're going to honor your wife, like how do you go about doing that?
It's a good question to ask yourself, right? Like, I might sound like a broken record, but it's like, it's such a powerful word to me, is that word serve, right? Like, how can I serve you? Right. And like, I think it's asking questions, right? It's like, being in tune with, what she's got going on in the day, right? Very easy for me to focus on all the things that I've got going on in my day. And I know times where, we do have friction in our marriage. Almost always it's when I'm self-focused, right?
Amen.
Right. When I'm like, do you know what I do for this family? Right.
100%.
Right. Do you know what I got going on? Me, I, right. Taking the focus off myself, and, and I feel like I got to be reminded to do that every day. Right. It's cool that, like, one of the things I like about kind of coming back to Christian faith is just this renewed understanding of like God gets that you're messed up, he gets that you don't get it right most of the time. And he's okay with that. Right. Like, so kind of setting up questions that I can ask myself, every morning. Right. And one of them is like, am I here to be served or to serve? And just asking that question, it helps me catch things that I did yesterday, anticipate things that are coming up in the day about, like, am I here because it's all about me, or is really the reason I'm here to kind of help out others? So for my wife, I think it's just, showing up with that heart posture, as you often call it, right? Like, of just like, let me be a little bit less about me. I hope that's
perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, I love
practical enough.
I know I had the same record run through my head. Do you know what I do for this family? I'm not working all the time, right? And no wonder. I mean, and the hard thing is like, because I know I had that there's times I would serve my wife, but definitely, obviously, more times than not, I'm divorced. And so it's just that the challenge is when you start to sort of break that, it just starts to go wider and wider until all of a sudden, like, we just couldn't get the reins back in.
Well, because I mean, what does that attitude or heart posture really say, right? Which is, do you know what I do? It's like, well, then the opposite is, what are you not doing? Or
hey, I'm not justifying them.
All I'm saying is that, because we've talked about it a few times, is that heart posture or that's completely and utterly unspoken. right? It's like how else is that supposed to land, right? And so even though we may not be intending to put that energy or that idea on to them, we can easily do that by being
Mhm.
self-centered,
Mhm.
so that's all I'm trying to say, is that
And when
it's
it's all,
completely unspoken.
and when like when you're not like when you're not walking with God, right? When you don't feel like God's in, like, so you're going through a stressful situation at work, right? If you feel like you're fighting that all on your own, like, it is easy for that to be like, do you know what I like? Because it is just you, right? It's like you're like, do you know what I'm trying to do here? And then when you've got, you bring God into that, right? And you're like, okay, God, like this is stressful. This is like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but you know what I do know is that, like, you've got a plan for me and you promised me that. And, even though this seems scary right now, like, um, I, I, I know you're going to get me through it. Like, now it's less about me, right? It's less about like, um, do you know what I'm doing? It's like, oh no, me and my wife are like, we're a team now too, right?
I think that's so important. And there's times when my ex-wife would say, like, "Hey, I'm on your side," and like if you read Genesis 3, it's so subtle how the snake comes up to Eve. It's like, "Are you sure you can't eat from the trees?" Like, just my point is the way the enemy tries to fight you, right? And I'm thinking back over the course of and like we had this beautiful painting in our house. It said, "In my house, we will serve the Lord." And then one day that was gone. I'm like, where'd that go? Right? I don't know. Still don't know what happened to it. But point is, I think that things start to creep in, that you're like, okay, we were together, we were serving the Lord, and then just small things start to happen, where you're not. And so just for guys out there, like, to be present to that, if you can sense that, hey, wait, we were doing a pretty good job here, now we're not, like, no, like, okay, I gotta get this back on track. Anything you want to add to the honor conversation, as we can move on?
Well, no, I guess I just wanted to tie that back to what you were talking about. It's like if they are going to, and that by they I mean our wives are to follow us, right? Then who are we tethered to, right? And if we're not tethered, then that's where we start going, you know. Well, don't you know what I'm doing? And I'm stressed out, and it's like, God, I know you've got, I'm in the efforts business, you're in the results business, um, and things just kind of seem to flow a little bit easier that way.
When the idea again, I think it's in Genesis maybe 2 or 3. It says, "When two shall become one," right? Like that's obviously a process. But are you really trying to sit with your wife and have two become one? Or are you like, so, and part of it I go back to is the socialization of men. I think we've all been socialized. Again, you read the first part of First Peter, it's, hey, submit to your husbands. And we've all kind of had that drummed into our head through the media and whatnot. So I think a big part of that I've learned through my life is like, just do the opposite of what the world's doing. And I'm probably going to be doing okay. Right.
When in doubt.
I want to get from you real quick, and then I want to move on to some of those you mentioned. Is the biggest, it sounds like your family, but just want to confirm this, the biggest impact that this group has had in your life is, what would you say? Because go ahead, and then I want to share.
No, you had one more thing. What was it?
Just, I don't want to answer your question, but I've loved.
You have a better answer.
No, but one thing that's really stuck out to me, just to, again, give you kudos, is like, we've talked about tithing in the group, right? And so everyone can kind of do that from a money standpoint, but you've talked about, man, one of the things that's really transformed my life is now I get up and I'm giving God my first, and I'm giving him my best of my time. And so you've kind of been tithing your time to him. And now you're like, man, I'm getting more done in my 24 hours now than I could have ever done by myself. So again, I don't want to take your answer, but I love that piece.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's like a magic thing, right? Like in tithing, right? Like on no financial spreadsheet does it make sense to take the first 10% of your income and put it out the door, every month, but that with money is the thing that, like, that's the one thing that God says, test me on, right? But the idea is giving God your first and your best. And so for me in the morning, it's like, That's when I'm freshest. And then everything else in my day is going to happen after what I do first thing in the morning, right? That's how the day works. So my first meeting of the day, my first thing I do is I meet with God, and I dedicate, a block of time every morning. Like I get up and I have my coffee with God, which sounds,
Might be a book title, right?
I know it sounds a little cheesy, but I do. I have coffee, and I mean, and this is so different than my life 2 years ago. I mean, to be fair, I've had a morning routine for a long, long time. But making God part of that, like anchoring it with a conversation with God, it's a game changer how everything else in your day. So it's like, I feel like once I've had that morning meeting, I'm just greeting the day totally different, totally anchored, and feeling like I'm not as wishy-washy as I was before, right? Like before, it's like, okay, I got all these things to do. And the thing I would jump into would be like checking email was part of my morning routine, and checking my bank account was part of my morning routine. And, and there were good, all good things. I'm trying to do good here, right? And now I also feel like in my morning, it's that much easier to like jump out of bed in the morning. So I'm like, I want to go like get clear. I'm going to like go sit in the chair that I know that I sit in for my morning routine. And I like coffee, and I'm going to, have this deep, meaningful experience that I get to look forward to every day. And now I'm just like, how was I going through my whole life without this? Like, you literally have got an opportunity to talk with the creator of the universe, if you so choose, every morning. That's an amazing thing. It still blows my mind. But and it's just like everything after that, it's not like the day's just, now I'm just coasting after that, but it's better.
Amen. It just changes again, kind of maybe your heart stature, your mindset, right, as you go about the day. I've got my own prayer chair I sit in every morning to kind of get that thing rolling. So it does make a huge, huge impact. Two more things, and then we'll begin to wrap this thing up. But you talked about, men 16 to 24, and you start to look at some of the data out there. You mentioned highest suicide. Recently, now you've got men that are 16 to 24, unemployment in that demographic, 2x women. Like I mentioned at the top, getting our tail kicked educationally, financially. I was at an event in Vegas. I'm in the self-storage business, right? And we're doing this prayer meeting one morning there. And it was the most interesting thing, because my heart breaks for a lot of these young men right now. You're trying to like put together a family and buy a home. And we all know that housing affordability is way out there for most people. And the guy told me at the cell, he's like, you need to start praying for the people at the Federal Reserve. I was like, what? So I don't want to get into a Federal Reserve conversation. My point is around this money piece, because you look at the number one reason that people are getting divorced these days, at least they say poll wise, that it's because of money. I just want to get your take on what do we start to do to fix that situation in our country, right? Like, maybe that's not something we want to get into, but all these baby boomers that have already, got their assets, the more money we print, the better it is for the baby boomers, while the 16 to 24 to 30-year-olds are just getting, like, over the last 4 years since COVID, you've lost 27% of your buying power.
Yeah.
Like, just because from some guy in a building's pushing buttons, right? Like, any reaction to that? Or
that is a complex problem.
all right.
That is a complex problem.
It is, but my point is we got to shore it up somehow. Again, I don't know what that solution is, but we're debasing people's energy, time, work, money, and I think there's changes in the works, but maybe that's a time for another pod that we'll talk about, since finance is one of our 7 pillars. So you can kind of take this either way, and I want to wrap it up here. How would you define a kingdom warrior? Like, what is a kingdom warrior to, or what does it mean to be a man these days? Start with you.
Sure. I mean, I think what it means to be a kingdom warrior is many things, but what's kind of sticking out to me is that, seemingly we live in a time where talking about Jesus and God is is a touchy subject, right? It can be, right? It's not well received by everyone. And being a kingdom warrior to me is being unafraid of letting it known that that is the cornerstone of you, the way you live, and your belief, and wanting to share that light and love with anybody that will listen, you know.
Jeffrey.
I mean, so kingdom warriors. I mean, it's like whose kingdom is it? It's not your kingdom. It's God's kingdom. I think the more I'm understanding what he wants, right? He wants us to help each other. I think whether you're Christian or not, whether you're, everybody in this world needs help, right? Like we're not like, I think a kingdom warrior, like, is not somebody who's here to judge. It's somebody who's here to help. Somebody who's there, like, sees a need. And I might not be the most equipped person to fill that need but I can do something, right? So I think just very simply, it's just somebody who shows up with a heart of service and is here to help others.
I think that's so good, man. I mean, you think about most of the time, again, you think about a king. We've all been socialized that, hey, king's going to sit in his throne. He's going to dictate where the armies go and da-da-da. And then you think about our King, Jesus Christ, like he gave his life up, right? Like he didn't ask you to do that. He's like, hey, I'm going to go on the front lines and do this. And I think you're spot on. Like, how do I serve to the point where even I'm willing to, maybe not for everybody, but give up their life to, make the world hopefully a better place. And I think for me, the only addition I would make to what some of you guys said is I really believe in Jeremiah 1:5, where he says, hey, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. I think every person, but since we're focused on men here, has got like this God-given purpose. Like he put you here on this planet at this particular time in history, I believe, for a reason, for a purpose. And so it's like, okay, how do you figure out what that is, number one, and then go out and live that? And then to speak to being a servant leader, then go lead like Jesus. Like, I think if you kind of do those two things, to me, that's a kingdom warrior, because you're fulfilling his will, right? And I know that you can look in the Bible, and I think it's Thessalonians, maybe Brian knows this, but it's like, hey, just be grateful and you're serving his will. Or there's some scripture like that. So that's very true. And yet I think also, I'm like, you want to have me hammer a nail? I'm terrible at that stuff, right? Like that's not my gifting. So I think everyone's also got a gifting that God's saying, hey, go use this and make an impact for my kingdom. So let's wrap it up. We'll give you guys each 30 seconds. Last word. Anything else you want to add or share?
No, I think I'm just looking forward to seeing where this goes, because I think this is, and this being, helping other men is a fantastic purpose in itself. And so, just thanks for putting this together, man. It's awesome.
Thanks for being here, man.
I'm glad to be a part of it.
You were a big part of them. Hey, let's just do it. Let's just do it. So thank you.
I'm glad that you brought up purpose again. And I think like how you, like, I feel like it's so easy to build up in your mind, right? Like, there's like, I've got to find my purpose. Like, how am I going to find, I don't know what it is yet. Right. And it's like, so much of it is like, it's trial and error, and like showing up, you got to hammer some nails to know that you're not good at hammering nails. Right. Like, how else would you know? And just being okay with like, but I think that is how you find it. And right. And I'm like, I don't know that what I'm doing right now is 100% aligned with the absolute best gifting that God has given me. Right. But like, I do believe that if I am looking to serve every day and being faithful in the little things, like then I'll be trusted with bigger things. Right. So like, I don't know. I just feel like that purpose can be daunting sometimes. Right. It's like, oh man, I'm not living in my I don't even know what my purpose is. Right. And it's like, as long as you're showing up with that heart of service, with like, I might not be the best at hammer nails, but it's what I'm doing today. I'm going to do the best job I can at it. That'll probably get recognized, and you get redirected over to the thing that, is more in line with your purpose. So I think it's like that. Like it's a it's a process and a journey. The whole thing's a process.
Amen. And a journey, right? And I think sometimes to speak to what happened here today, because this is, we had a little intro and then Brian was like, hey, let's try something else. And so I was doing the intro, we got done, and both of you guys were like, dude, you're so in your element right now. And I'm like, really? Like sometimes you don't even know that maybe that's where you should be. And yet I've done enough of these reps where it's like, okay. And so it's just nice to get that confirmation. Sometimes you kind of need your boys to be like, hey, bro, trust me, like you need to be doing more of that.
Roll.
So I just want to say thank you as well to Brian Davis. He donated a studio to us to get this thing rolling. Again, this is the first episode. So Brian, thank you very much. The Kingdom Warrior Way. Please share this with other guys that you know and see if we can start to make an impact. If you got any suggestions on topics or guests or whatever that may be, we're always open to that as well. Again, I'm Chris Berg. Thanks so much for joining us.